Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Rodney, and I'm back. And I wanted to come and run my mouth and talk about Heart and Hustle Houston. Is that the name? Yeah, Heart and Hustle Houston. We just gonna talk. We just went live. So I think we were on there for about 3 hours. And then I told the cousins, for those who watch, you know, for those who were there, that I was going to try to have the review up tonight. And then I kind of got a little tipsy. And then I was like, they're going to have to just wait. And I was like, no, you need to be a man of your word. Because I said I was going to, well, I said I was going to put it out tonight. Then I said I was going to try. And then I made me another cocktail. And then I was like, you don't need to finish this cocktail because if you finish this cocktail, you definitely won't have the review up tonight. So I said, you know what? Just stop. And then, just take care of your business. So here we are. So because I am a little tipsy, this review might be all over the place. But at the end, y'all still going to understand what I'm trying to say. All right. So we can just start off with Shaniqua and Ro. Ro, let me tell you something. I don't care what none of y'all say. I want Shaniqua on the show. I think Shaniqua should be a friend of the show. I think that the small amount of time that Shaniqua has been on the show, she has made an impact. Yes, I love the sisterhood and I love the vulnerable moments that they have shown on, that happen on these shows across the board. But we have to be honest, we tune in for a tad bit of drama. And even though Shaniqua is full of shit, be very clear, because girl, Shaniqua dug all the way deep in her bag to try to find somebody to have some mess with, and the best she came up with was Latoria and them doing business a decade ago. Girl, just like Rose said, I'm with 100% with Rose. If we only did business 10 years ago, that's worth minimizing. It is. Girl, I ain't seen you in a decade. I don't even know you. I really don't even know your real name, honestly. But with that being said, I like the fact that Shaniqua came in and just broke up the scene. And I like the fact that her name is Shaniqua. Can we say something? Can we have some kitchen table talk? People would consider a name like Shaniqua, what's the word I'm looking for? Urban. And you don't see a lot of the girls that will get on TV and I'm assuming this is her government name, and just say my name is Shaniqua. Some people will say, "Oh, my name is Nikki," right? Well, I go by Niqua, but they're not gonna say my name is Shaniqua from Third Ward, right? Jack Yates grew up in CUNY Homes. You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna say that. So I like the fact that Shaniqua. Again, I'm assuming her government name is Shaniqua. He's using her government name. I love it. But if not, Shaniqua may be, a stage name, her, TV name. But I like Shaniqua. I think that she brings a little spice to the group. Um, I think they should definitely keep Shaniqua around. I do. That Shaniqua is what the show needs. We love the moments. We love them being vulnerable with each other, but we do need a little spice. And I think that Shaniqua, she came in and she woke the girls up a tad bit. I do. Um, and even though, again, she was full of shit with how far she had to reach back to create some type of drama with one of the girls, Latoria, I don't think it was too just out there. She ain't get on the show, coming for nobody's husband or I slept with your man. It was just like, girl, to me, it was light drama. It was light drama, in my opinion. Anyways, bitch, Latoria got her bag and left, baby. Latoria said, "Baby, I'm about to go." So Latoria got her bag and she left the scene. And when Chloe was like, when Chloe said, because Ro got pissed off and I think she went to the restroom. I think she went to the restroom, the ladies' room, and when Chloe was like, "You called her a bitch," and Shaniqua sat there and looked at Chloe like this, like, and okay, and I'll do it again. Ow! Latoria and the group meet up, and she basically tells them that she is going to she's throwing an event with that's going to honor 20 women within Houston who have broken barriers. Girl, quiet as this kept. We're just gonna call it for what it is. I'm not mad at it. Most of the time, these girls do have to come up with something to kind of, you know, have something to show for these reality shows. It appears as though because Latoria couldn't even remember the name of something I think that she came up with I think a co-creator. She probably just came up with this girl a few days ago. Well, I need to come up with something. I need to do something because really and truly, Latoria ain't got a lot going on. I need to do something. We just throw an event and get some name plaques, and we're gonna call it "Breaking Barriers," whatever she called it. Anyways, but it was a cute event though, girl. They had drinks, they had food. It was a nice little. It was not. It was a nice setup. It was. Anyways, Ro. Oh, and also she's going to be honoring Ro and Alicia. She feels like Ro, working in a male-dominated field, she does what she does, right? Surrounded by so many men, and then Elena being this celebrity makeup artist and basically doing her thing. So she wants to honor Ro and Elena. They start to talk about Shaniqua, okay? And most of the girls were not there. It was only Shaniqua, Latoria. Is it Latoria or Latoria? I think it's Latoria. Um, who was it? Basically, kind of like the single-ish women of the group. Elena is married, but she's having issues with her husband. Elena was there, Ro, and then Chloe. And so the other girls were not there, so they were telling them about what happened. And Rose started crying. And I get it, right? Rose says that back in the day, basically, Shaniqua would have been slid all across that room. Okay? Girl, it would have been some furniture moving all up and through that establishment. Again, I think the girls are aware of the cameras, which I understand because especially if this is their first time shooting a reality show, it takes a lot for you to put all of yourself out there, and then people like me, like I stated earlier in my live, we come down here and sometimes we kind of like pick these scenes apart, pick these scenarios apart. So I get it, they're still aware of the cameras. Ro basically doesn't want a certain image out there of her. Basically, that's what it comes down to. And so how she responded to Shaniqua, she said was a better response than she probably would have done before, because before her Shaniqua would have been windmilling, right? But she still didn't like her response as surrounding Shaniqua, because she felt like she could have just done better or either just walked away. I didn't really think Rose. Did I say Flo? Did I call that girl Flo? Yeah, okay. I don't really think Rose's response was just too over the top. I mean, I will say this much. I don't remember if Ro called her a. I don't know if Ro called her weird or if she said what Shaniqua was doing was weird. There is a difference. Now, can we just call a thing a thing? If Ro called her weird, then you can't get mad that Shaniqua calls you a bitch. I feel like Ro called her weird. Now, if she didn't, then Shaniqua is wrong. But if she called if she called Shaniqua weird and then Shaniqua hit her back with the bitch, then it is what it is. Like you called her a name and she calls you a name. And the name she calls you is not just this uncommon name that people refer to people sometimes in the midst of an argument. You called her weird, she called you a bitch. You felt as though because you calling her weird really shouldn't have resulted in her calling you a bitch, But you can't choose to call her what you want to call her and then get mad when she calls you what she wants to call you. And this is not for every scenario. Be very clear. I'm saying in this scenario, the names that were thrown at each other, her calling her a bitch is not too uncommon. People do that all the time in the midst of an argument, right? Now, if she said what you're doing is weird, and then Shaniqua said, "Girl, fuck you, bitch," then I could be like, "Girl," you know. Anyways, um, Ro basically also says that growing up, she was really aggressive. So in that moment, she's proud of herself for not really grabbing Shaniqua by her throat, but she still could have probably handled the situation better. But I think it's also because, girl, these cameras here, and girl, y'all really got me on TV about to act a fool. I get it. Elena and her mom. So Elena's mother comes over to visit. And she says growing up that her mother was really, really hard on her. She tells a story about how she started doing makeup. Shout out to her mama. Um, she says that she used to do the girls. Well, I don't know if those girls are boys. I'm just gonna say she did the people. Okay, because I'm sure it was probably a gay or two who wanted a little beat. Anyway, she said that she was doing the people makeup, and she said she just liked doing it, so it wasn't really this thing that she thought she should be charging for. And then she said one day her mother asked her, "Are you charging these people to do their makeup?" And she was like, "No." She was like, "I'm just doing it for free because I like doing it." And then her mother was like, "Absolutely not." And so she said her mother went and bought some business cards and gave them to Elena and told her, "You need to start charging." And she said that kind of like started the whole empire. Isn't that wonderful? Not to we about to start preaching like I always do. I do think that it is important for parents or guardians to kind of tap in to a talent that they may see their kids possess. I do. Girl, you might have the next Beyonce. Shout out to Matthew Knowles, and you just might never know. I think that if you see that your kid may be great at something and they love doing it, right? I think that it is important, even if you may not agree with what it is. If it ain't harming nobody, what I'm saying is basically like, if your son does, you think your son might be good at doing hair, baby, you better let that boy twirl these wigs. You know what I'm saying? If you see your son is good, I don't know, just different things. But I think it's important that when parents see something, they basically, kind of push their kids. Because you could be, now Elena is this successful makeup artist, has her own studio. And like I said, girl, Elena was the only one, not to say that the other girl, it doesn't matter, but Elena was the only one that I had ever heard of prior to this show. So when I saw her, I was like, oh my God, that's a girl from Instagram. Well, I don't know her, but I always run across her Instagram page. Oh my God, that's a girl from Instagram. She does makeup. Anyways, um, she also talks about how she's learned from the other women how you have to kind of like have self-care days, because for her, like, I feel like it's a lot of parents, like I feel like a lot of mamas are like this. I do feel like a lot of women do operate from the mindset, and it's probably what y'all were taught. You basically have to put the family before everything and everybody. I don't necessarily believe in that. For me, the first person I heard say this was that trifling ass Dwayne. What's his name? Tisha Campbell's ex-husband with his fine ass. Maybe Dwight wasn't Dwight. What's his name? Dwayne or Dwight? Tisha Campbell's ex-husband. I remember him saying, and this was one of the rare times I ever watched. I think it was The Real. He was saying how he would always tell Tisha that she had to put herself first, because if she's not good, then nobody else is good. If if you saying that, not if you're saying, but if you're the mother and you want to be the best mother and wife, but you put yourself last, and how can you be at 100% if you don't take care of yourself? As selfish as it may sound, I 1,000,000% agree. I feel like you should put yourself first before your kids, before your husband, so you can show up as the best version of yourself, and then you could be there for your family. But if everybody comes before you and then you only have this much left to give yourself, you're going to be a mess. And I don't give a fuck what nobody say. If you're unhappy, that shit is gonna trickle on down to your kids and maybe even your husband. So always put yourself first, ladies. And then you can be the best version of yourself when it comes to your husband and your kids. Okay. Anyways, so she said she's learning from the kid, from not the kids, from her friends about self-care, because she always makes sure the kids are good. She makes sure her husband is good, and then of course she's always making sure that the business is running the way that it needs to be ran. um and then the mother says, well, I know you didn't learn that from me. And it basically, they kind of just had like somewhat of a heart to heart. Elena, it sounds like Elena got from her mother that when things happen, you kind of stick it out. You basically put on a show. Elena's mother says she did the same thing with her, with I think Elena's father, right? With Elena's father, until she couldn't do it anymore. Basically, she put on a show for people. Excuse me, and pretended that everything was okay when it really wasn't. And then when she finally got fed up, she was like, "This is not working," and she left. And so I think Elena is basically kind of mimicking what her mother used to do. It sounds like she's following the same footsteps. Eventually, it sounds like Elena is going to get to a point where this is not going to work out. With Josh, which is Elena's husband, cheating on her before they got married, she still married Josh anyways, and she hasn't gotten over Josh betraying her. I said, "Ooh, girl." But she still married him, right? Josh did something, and she don't want to tell us. I feel like he cheated again. She said she's protecting him. She said that last episode. I want to know what he did. I got some ideas in my head, but I'm not gonna say it right now. I'm gonna leave it alone. Um, hello. Because I'm like, girl, why can't, if you're already telling us, because if you're telling us a nigga cheated on you before you got married, then girl, you telling us he cheated again? Are we really gonna be surprised? I mean, he cheated on you before. She also feels like sometimes she really can't speak to her mother, because her mother is kind of on some, y'all are young, y'all should be happy, and she feels as though like her mother doesn't really understand her sometimes. So she doesn't really open up to her mother as she probably wants to. Oh, Chloe. They were, so not Elena, Latoria has the event, and they were talking. I feel like Chloe, messy ass Chloe. I feel like Chloe was trying to remove herself from the mess. Chloe, you listen. I know the producers probably stepped in and got the shit popping, but Chloe, for what we know is you invited Shaniqua. You told Shaniqua some shit about Latoria, I guess, acting as if she really didn't know Shaniqua. Now, how you relayed that information, we don't know. But it doesn't take away from the fact that you told us that you invited Shaniqua, so it is what it is. Now it sounds like Shaniqua was trying to kind of like, backpedal and pussy pop and remove herself from the mess. Talking about Shaniqua owes all the ladies at the table an apology. Well, girl, you owe them an apology too, because you invited her and did nobody even know Shaniqua was coming. Um, so let me tell y'all something. When I say I fucking love Chloe, I fucking love Chloe. I love Labrina. I do. Girl, I love Chloe. Chloe probably my favorite one. I love Chloe. I love Chloe because Chloe is what I feel like is sometimes missing from reality TV. I feel like, and I said this earlier, so some of y'all who were in my live already heard this. I feel like when it comes to reality TV, yes, these people sign up for this. Nobody is putting a gun to their heads. Nobody is forcing them to sign on a dotted line. They're doing this because eventually this is what they chose to do, right? You don't get a cookie for doing your job. You signed up to do this job. However, due to the fact that we have been watching reality TV for a very long time, we know now that some of these girls get on TV and like to play in our motherfucking faces. Okay? And we know when they lying. We know when they might be telling the truth, right? I think that sometimes people do start off vulnerable, but then they kind of start to, once they start to probably get dragged on social media, once they might feel as though they're not being, edited the right way, they start to kind of pull back. Chloe is down to TV doing things that I feel like I have not seen in a very, very, I don't know why I'm saying very, very, in a very, very long time. Chloe being vulnerable, owning up to her mistakes as a parent, apologizing to her child. When I tell you the way I was over her boohoo crying, y'all know I'm sensitive. I'm a nigga that talk a lot of shit, but I'm really sensitive. I'm just a nigga that talk a lot of shit, but I be sensitive though, as hell. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Chloe goes over to Labrina's house. And Chloe pulls up and Labrina is outside pushing her daughter on a swing. And when Chloe walked up, she said, "Ooh, girl, you live in a soft life. You just outside pushing your daughter on a swing. I just got off work out of a war zone." She said, "Oh, let me push." She said, "Let me push the baby so I can manifest some of this." I don't know why I thought that was so funny. I know that's right. Um, Girl. Now this is what now we about to talk. I love this show. I do. It's a good show. Labrina. Before we even get into this conversation, I know for a fact that this is not realistic for the majority of scenarios. I know. I know. I know what I'm about to say, that the majority, when I say a majority, probably like 99% of people, girl, can't do this. But I wish it was this way. So Labrina starts to talk about her son and how her son isn't really doing well in school right now. He loves football, but his grades are not where they need to be. She says that basically the son, it sounds like the son wants to live with his father, right? But it also sounds like he probably wants to live with his father because his father doesn't have any structure. I feel like the majority of the time, especially women who really take on the role of raising the kids, the woman always comes across as a disciplinarian, and the father sometimes comes across as the fun guy. I really feel that way in a lot of scenarios. Not every single one, but I feel like the mother always comes across as the one who kind of puts down the hammer, and then the father kind of just comes in and just is like the fun person. And I feel like that might be the case with this right here. I feel like Labrina has probably structure, a schedule at her home, and he was succeeding with that structure and the schedule, which I think everybody needs from kids on up. But the fun time was probably cut a little bit in half. And I think that at his father's house, there's no structure, there's no schedule, and the fun time has increased. And so now he's with the father the majority of the time, and his grades have started to suffer in school. But when he was there, he was doing fine. She says that her son is with the dad Monday and Tuesday, and sometimes throughout the weekends. And then on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, he's with her. I think that is absolutely horrible. I do. I'm about to say something, and I don't want y'all to take this the wrong way, because I know it's just life, and life just happens, and life be lifing. I do believe that when kids have to bounce around from address to address due to a relationship not working out, and I'm not saying you should stay in a relationship because of some motherfucking kids, because I definitely don't believe in that. I know it's a very hard thing to talk about, but I do believe that when kids have to bounce around from address to address, right? And we'll just use this as an example since we're already talking about it. The son is at the daddy's house basically Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And then in the middle of the school week, he then goes back to the mama's house, which is what, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then he goes back to the daddy house on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Like, it's just a lot of going back and forth. And I feel like, girl, at some point, I do believe the kids should just have one address. I remember watching The Real Housewives of Potomac. I was talking to one of my friends, and he was saying how he feels as though, and again, this is not realistic for the majority of households, but remember on Real Housewives of Potomac, those who watched, Stacy basically had her kind of basically had an apartment in the city, and then they also had their home. Her and her husband were divorcing, but anytime the husband would kind of like come home from work after traveling, Stacy would leave the home and then go to her apartment. But the daughter always stayed at the address. And I feel like that's how it should be. I hate that kids, even though I know that's not realistic, I have to keep saying that because I know somebody gonna get in the comment section. I just hate that kids have to go through that transition. Yes, I understand it's a part of life. Yes, I don't believe that you should stay with somebody just because you have kids, especially if it's not, especially if you ain't happy, Olo. But I do believe that does take a toll on children when they have to bounce from address to address. I do. And then again, especially when you're in the school year, can you imagine being at your mama's house Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, going to your dad's house Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, then having to leave school, then go back to your mama's house on, girl, I guess Wednesday after you get out of school. Like it's just a lot. It's a lot. Um, but I hope that they can figure out a game plan for their son, and I do believe that, girl, the son probably need to be with the mama, if we're gonna be honest. Because, girl, we all were in school, and I don't know if y'all, I don't know about now, but when I was in school, we had, if you don't pass, you don't play. And if your grades are suffering, we're about to get into Chloe in a little bit, but if your grades are suffering to the point where, girl, listen, everybody not gonna grow up to be Russell Wilson. Everybody not gonna grow up to be Michael Irvin. Everybody not gonna be the next football player. And it's sad to say. I hate to be the one to say this shit, but all dreams don't come true. And sometimes you have to have a backup plan. And while he might love football now, that does not mean, even if you are good at the sport, that does not mean that will be your career. And when I think you kind of thumb your nose up at your grades, because the last thing you should do is, let me shut up. I was about to start. I was doing too much talking. Let's talk about Chloe. Um, so Chloe had Nico at 19 years old. She said basically, like, for the longest, Nico was that's her son. So Chloe has a son named Nico. He's 24. She said she had him when he was 24 years. I mean, she had him when she was 19 years old. For the longest, it was just her and him. Even when she was getting her master's degree, she said Nico would be right in class with her sometimes. Um, so they had a very, very close relationship due to just being them two. And then, of course, she got married, and then she had two kids. And then, for those who don't know, her and her husband, who was older than her, I think her husband was in his 50s, and Chloe is, I think, like 43, something like that. Whatever 19 plus 24 is, because I think that's how old the son is. Yeah. How old is that? What's that? 19? How old is that? I'm not good at math. 43? I think that's 43. So, anyways, her husband was like in his 50s. They were together for like 7 years, and then he unfortunately had a heart attack, I believe, 2 months after they got married and died. She said that Nico at one point pretty much became the man of the house, and her focus pretty much shifted to the girls. Chloe Chloe was basically owning up to the mistakes that she's made as a parent. Like I said, girl, I thought it was a beautiful thing to see because it's just not black parents. It's not because I hear the same thing from people online. You know, when I'm just reading comments and stuff and watching videos. You know, Hispanic parents do it, Asian parents do it, white parents, like they will not take accountability for what they probably did as a parent. The most they'll probably say is, I did the best I could do. And that's all you're going to get. But I think that for Chloe to sit before she even had the conversation with her son, which is later in the episode, for Chloe to even sit there and acknowledge that I dropped the ball with my son and I put him in a position that he shouldn't have been in. Like, he's not my husband, right? My daughters are not his responsibility. He is their brother, but he's not responsible for my children. And I completely 100 motherfucker percent agree. I think that it's nice, and I think that Nico should assist, especially with that transition happening with the kids. But at some point, Nico is not like your husband. It is not Nico's job. As she stated at one point, she felt like it was Nico's job to take care of her. It is not Nico's job to take care of you when, girl, one, you're older than him. Two, technically, you know, at the time whenever the daddy died, like he still was he like a teenager? I'm assuming. I don't know. I don't know when he died. When did he die? I can't remember. But it's just not his job. It's not. I do think that he still should be responsible for assisting around the home, right? Even helping with the girls here and there. But to step up into the role of being the man of the house. Mm. Um, Baby, when Labrina told her, bitch, I said, come on. I 1,000,000% agree with Labrina. Now don't get it twisted. We're gonna get into Mr. Nico in a little bit. But when Labrina told her, girl, you need to go ahead and get rid of Jordan, which is her boyfriend, and your focus needs to be on your kids. I said, come on, bitch. You need to take a break from Jordan. I said, come on, let me say something. Because I know somebody gonna say something. Nico is grown. Nico is 24. But I feel like what has happened what has happened in their lives from the death of this man who I guess I'm assuming played a father figure to Nico, him dying. Nico, from what it sounds like later in the episode, really didn't have anybody to talk to. So in a way, even him stepping into that role as a father figure, from what he said, it kind of helped him, I guess, avoid dealing with, which is not necessarily good. It helped him avoid or helped him with the grieving process as it pertained to his stepfather. So, like he said, I don't mind helping with the girls because it actually kind of helped me out, right? But I agree. I know Nico was 24. That's a grown man. But I'm about to say something. But I don't think that the relationship with Jordan should even be a priority when you see your son maybe going to the left and you know that your son has a big problem with the fact that you're dating someone 4 years older than him. Girl, there's a good chance that that relationship with Jordan and Chloe ain't gonna work out anyways. Girl, cut your ties now. I do believe that Chloe should definitely focus on her son and her children and herself, and she's gonna have to just let that relationship with Jordan go to the side, at least for a little bit. Maybe she can girl spin the block again later. But I think that that shouldn't happen until things at home are together. And I was with Labrina when she said you're gonna have to let him go to the side because you got other stuff going on. And Jordan, whatever his name is, should not be a focus at all. And I 100% agree. Um, because the thing is, if Jordan stays with Chloe stays with Jordan, if he doesn't already like the relationship, you don't have to give a fuck about the relationship with your son, but that will definitely drive a bigger wedge. And if you think that Jordan gonna come into that house telling your son anything and think that it ain't gonna be some furniture moving, Chloe will be sadly mistaken. And Jordan already think he's somebody telling you how to operate with your son. Girl, I said I need to say, girl, he telling you how to deal with your son. Got your black ass. I can't even talk. Got your black ass crying at the restaurant. I wanted to know, girl, what's your status at the bank? Because you got a lot of mouth for Chloe telling her how she should operate with Nico. Anyways, um, so basically, Chloe takes Nico out. They go out for drinks, and she says that she wants to get to know the 24-year-old Nico. She said the Nico she knows is 16 years old. Um, and she just wants to get to know the man that's in front of her right now. Um, she basically let him know that she was sorry. She apologized for basically putting things on his plate that shouldn't have been on his plate. She said she would be more supportive. Hmm. Girl, she apologized. Girl, I was crying boots. I was crying. I just felt like, and that's what I was saying earlier. I just feel like for these girls, for it, that takes a special type of person for you to be that vulnerable with how you moved as a parent. Because a lot of parents not gonna do no shit like that. They'll go to their grace, and I did the best I could. That's the most you're gonna get out of them. But for Chloe to get on TV and to be that vulnerable and to be open and honest about the mistakes that she made as a parent and the things that she should have done and the things that she didn't do. Chloe is all right in my book, baby. That's my bitch, baby. That's my bitch. I love me an honest bitch. I do. I do. I love when I watch these reality TV shows and the girls do what they're supposed to do. To me, Chloe is doing what she signed up to do, and that's to be real, honest, and show the reality, and not lie for these cameras. Right? Now she was pussyfooting and backpedaling with Shaniqua and Ro, but and you know this is where it counts. Like Chloe is being honest. I feel like Labrina is being honest. I feel like Elena, she's still being honest. She ain't really telling us a full tea, but I feel like the girls are being honest. I do. And that's what I love when I can watch a reality show and I know the girls ain't telling no lie. Cause like ain't nobody getting on TV saying that I should have told him I loved him more. Like when my husband died, I didn't even check on him. I wasn't focused. This is what Chloe was saying. I wasn't focused on him. I didn't check on him. I was just trying to figure out how I'm gonna pay these bills and how I'm gonna raise these little girls. Right? He can take care of himself. I say, damn. And I shouldn't have done him that way. I put basically it sounded like his sisters occupied his time and helped him grieve. So yeah, even though she shouldn't have put him in the position of being the man of the house and basically taking care of the sisters. I guess in a weird way, because he didn't have anybody to talk to, um, and he really didn't know how to handle the grieving process. That him taking care of his sisters kind of I guess took his mind off of the death of his stepfather. I like how she's talking with him and not to him. She asked him about his rap career and he was basically saying that he doesn't have a plan B, C, D, or E. Plan A is to be a rapper. And she was like, all right. She was like, so we're gonna get in the studio. He was like, I want to be in the studio. I think he said next week. And she was like, okay. Now this is what I gotta say. I feel like I don't want to call because I don't want to call Nico lazy. I felt like I want to call him he's not motivated, right? And it may be due to the situation that happened at home. His stepfather dying, him not really being able to um, talk to anyone. I'm sure that played a factor into where he's probably at in life. He's 24. Now, 24 ain't 54, but 24 is 24. I love the moment that they shared on television. I love that Chloe was honest about, her missteps as a parent. I love that she apologized to Nico. I think that Nico was very deserving of an apology. However, Chloe, you got to keep your good eye on Nico because I could see Nico low key trying to manipulate the situation. I could, I could, I could, I could see him trying to use, that Chloe is now accepting accountability, backing him up in his, I guess, 100% backing him up in his rap career to his advantage. I'm gonna say this and I'm not gonna take it back. I'm not mad at no mama or daddy for wanting or pressuring their kids into having choices lined up, especially when it comes to something as a football career or a rap career or a singing career. There are certain jobs in life that that a lot of people won't be able to experience. People have, the fact of the matter is, there's only been one Michael Jackson. Hello? A phenomenon. So far, if we're gonna be honest, there's only been one Beyonce. A girl ain't touched Beyonce since she came, since Beyonce was Beyonce. You see what I'm saying? There are people who can be successful at music. There are people who can be successful at football. To now, what level of success? I guess it depends on what you're trying to reach. You can still be a successful rapper and not necessarily be Jay-Z. You can still be a successful artist and not be a Beyonce. You can still be a successful artist and not be Michael Jackson. But I think that in a field like that, everybody is not going to be able to be a singer, period. Everybody won't be able to be a rapper, period. Everybody won't be able to be a football player. So I think that Chloe wanting her son to have a backup plan, I don't think that Chloe is wrong for that. And I don't think that necessarily means that she's not supporting his rap career, however, right? If you say you want to be a rapper, but you're not going to the studio, you're not putting a song out, then how are you going to be a rapper? Because nowadays, we're just gonna be honest about it, bitch. You don't even need a record label, bitch. You can put your shit on YouTube. You can put your shit on Sound. Was it SoundCloud? There's so many avenues that we can go to now versus like, girl, back in the 1990s that are available to get your music out there. Like even with this show, Nico should have been in somebody's booth recording a song. So they could, Chloe should have been shooting a scene with her son because I know my son got some music and we're going to use this motherfucking show and I'm going to come down to the studio and they're going to hear a piece of this song that you got. And then by the end of the season, girl, the song is going to be out on Apple Music. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, Chloe gonna have to be careful because I could see Nico kind of manipulate her, especially if it gets to a point where she feels as though Nico might not necessarily be holding up his end of the bargain. I could see Nico trying to pull the "you don't support me" and "I'm just trying" and "you said you was gonna have my back." Yeah, she can have your back, but Nico still is 25 years. I'm sure by now he's 25, probably older because I don't know when this show was shot. You still a grown ass man at the end of the day. Y'all know how I feel about it, man. Girl, let me say something. I'm kind of old school when it comes to some shit, believe it or not. I do not like. It's one thing, like I was saying earlier. It's one thing for a man to lose his job, get laid off. That's one thing, and he just can't find employment, and his wife or girlfriend kind of picks up the slack until he finds a job. That's one completely different thing. But a nigga who just don't work, girl, that gets under my motherfucking skin. I can't stand a sorry ass nigga. When I tell you, I do not like a grown ass man that don't work. Oh, I don't like it. I have a double standard. I have double standards sometimes, but I recognize my double standards. See, some of the girls don't recognize their double standards, but I definitely recognize mine. Okay. Anyways, but yeah, I'm gonna need Nico to still get a job though, because I don't think Nico working. I don't think Nico works. So how you paying for the studio time? I think Chloe said that Nico doesn't work. Correct me if I'm wrong though. And Nico could go get a little job. Let me tell you what Nico could go. Because I know they're probably gonna watch this review. Nico, take your ass to Nordstrom. They will hire you. You can work in logistics. If you don't want to work on the sales floor, you could be in the basement. I worked in logistics. I know. Okay, they're different, and they're different. They're different. What is it called? Different departments in logistics. They have web. Um, they have the truck. They have what is it called? I forgot it, girl. Like delivery, like when you package up the stuff. There are different. Girl, take your ass to Walmart. You can work overnight, stock groceries, stock the shelves. Take your ass to Amazon. They always hiring. I heard that's a slave ship though. I don't know, girl. The girls at Amazon let us know, girl. I used to hear bad things about Amazon, but I don't know. I heard bad and good. But there are places that will hire him. He just needs to have some type of income. Because at the end of the day, he's still a grown ass man. A grown ass man. Not like grown like 18, 19, 20. Like, girl, like 25. Anyway, child, that was it. Ro and Shaniqua met up and Chloe, and they talked things through. And basically, they worked it out, girl. I'm tired of talking. I'm so tired of talking, y'all. I gotta go. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good night. Bye, y'all.